The great chamber of the Galactic Council was filled with noise. Hundreds of alien leaders were talking at the same time. Bright lights floated above the massive hall, and the walls were covered with symbols of ancient civilizations. This was the center of power in the galaxy. Decisions made here shaped the fate of thousands of worlds. At the center of the chamber stood the human ambassador. Ambassador Elias Ward looked calm, but the entire council was watching him. Many of the alien leaders looked amused. Some looked angry. Others simply looked bored. Humans had been part of the Galactic Alliance for only 50 years. Compared to the ancient races that ruled the stars for thousands of years, humanity was still new. And many of the powerful empires did not like that. One of the council elders rose from his seat. The tall silver alien was a representative of the Carthian Empire, one of the oldest powers in the galaxy. His voice echoed across the chamber. Humanity has failed to prove its value to the Alliance. Murmurs spread through the hall. The elder continued. Your fleets are small. Your colonies are few. Your people refuse to expand like the other races. He paused and looked directly at the human ambassador. You contribute little to the power of this council. Several alien senators nodded in agreement. Then another leader spoke loudly. Humans are cautious. Too cautious. A reptilian senator leaned forward. While the rest of us conquer new systems, humanity builds defenses and hides behind its borders. Laughter spread across several rows. The accusations continued for several minutes. Humans were weak. Humans were slow. Humans lacked ambition. At least that was what the council believed. Finally the council leader raised a hand and the chamber slowly became quiet. The council has reached a decision. The words echoed through the massive hall. Humanity will lose its permanent seat in the Galactic Alliance. A wave of whispers moved through the audience. Many alien leaders seemed pleased. Others watched the human ambassador closely, waiting for his reaction. Ambassador Elias Ward slowly stood from his seat. The room grew silent. Everyone expected anger. Some expected threats. Others expected humans to beg for their position. But the human ambassador simply looked around the chamber. His eyes moved across the ancient leaders who had ruled the galaxy long before humanity discovered faster-than-light travel. Then he spoke calmly. Very well. The simple words surprised many of the senators. We understand the council's decision. Some aliens exchanged confused looks. That was not the reaction they expected. One senator leaned forward with a mocking smile. And where will humanity go now? More quiet laughter spread across the chamber. The human ambassador remained calm. He looked directly at the council leaders. We will leave. Silence filled the hall. The Carthian elder frowned. Leave the alliance. The human slowly shook his head. No. Then he spoke the words that made the entire chamber suddenly feel colder. Humanity will leave the galaxy. For several seconds no one spoke. Then loud laughter erupted across the council chamber. Many aliens believed it was a joke. Leaving the galaxy was impossible. Even the most advanced civilizations rarely traveled far beyond the galactic rim. One senator waved his hand dismissively. Humans always loved dramatic speeches. But the human ambassador did not laugh. Instead he said one final sentence. We wish the galaxy good luck. Those words made a few of the oldest alien leaders suddenly grow very quiet. The ancient historian of the Valari species slowly leaned forward. His voice was barely a whisper. Good luck. A strange feeling spread across the chamber. Because the old Valari historian remembered something most races had forgotten. Thousands of years ago, the earliest records of humanity had mentioned something unusual. Long before humans joined the Galactic Alliance. They had once traveled beyond the edge of the galaxy. And when they returned, they refused to speak about what they had found. The old Valari historian watched the human ambassador carefully. Why would the galaxy need luck? The human looked at him for a moment. Then he gave a small, almost sad smile. But he did not answer. Instead, Ambassador Elias Ward turned and walked toward the exit. Within hours, human diplomats across the galaxy began leaving their stations. Within days, human fleets began moving toward the outer rim. No announcements were made. No explanations were given. Humanity simply started disappearing from the galaxy. At first, many civilizations celebrated. But far away, near the dark edge of the galactic rim, something ancient had just noticed the movement of human fleets. And for the first time in thousands of years, humanity was no longer standing in its way. For the first few weeks after humanity left the galaxy, nothing seemed different. Trade ships continued to move between star systems. The great empires of the galaxy kept expanding their borders. News channels across the stars joked about the dramatic human exit. Many aliens believed humanity had simply run away in shame. Some leaders even celebrated the moment. The galaxy is stronger without them, one senator proudly said during a broadcast. Others agreed. Humans had always been strange. They built powerful defenses around their worlds but rarely attacked anyone. They refused to conquer weaker planets even when they had the chance. To many civilizations, that behavior made no sense. Power in the galaxy had always belonged to those who expanded the fastest. Humanity never played that game. Now they were gone. At least, that was what most people believed. But deep space sensors near the outer rim of the galaxy began detecting something unusual. At first, the signals were small. Strange energy waves were appearing in the empty darkness beyond the stars. The signals were so faint that many monitoring stations thought they were just sensor errors. But the signals continued. And slowly they became stronger. Within a month, dozens of observatories across the galaxy were detecting the same pattern. Massive energy bursts were coming from beyond the galactic rim. Scientists across many worlds began studying the signals. The patterns were not random. They looked like the power signatures of extremely large engines. But that made no sense. Nothing lived outside the galaxy. At least, that was what everyone believed. A young researcher from the Terran Union presented the findings to the Galactic Council. The energy levels are enormous, she explained nervously. Whatever is creating these signals is larger than any fleet we have ever recorded. The council chamber filled with worried whispers. One of the council leaders spoke. Are these human ships? The researcher shook her head. No known human technology can produce energy on this scale. The room grew quieter. Then another council member asked the question everyone was thinking. If it is not human technology, what is it? No one had an answer. While the council debated, something else began happening. Small listening stations near the galactic rim started going silent. At first it was only 1 or 2. Then 5. Then 12. Entire monitoring systems stopped responding. No distress signals were sent. No damage reports were received. The stations simply disappeared from communication networks. Investigators were sent to check the nearest outpost. When the patrol ships arrived, they found nothing. The station was gone. No wreckage. No debris. It was as if the structure had never existed. Only one object remained floating in the empty darkness. A small metal beacon. When the patrol crew activated it, a message appeared. The message contained only 4 words. Humanity tried to warn you. Panic slowly began spreading across the council. More monitoring stations vanished over the next few weeks. Each time, investigators found the same thing. No damage. No battle. Just empty space and a floating beacon. And every beacon carried the same message. Humanity tried to warn you. Ancient historians across the galaxy began searching through old records. Some of the oldest civilizations had legends about strange threats that existed outside the galaxy. Most scholars had always believed those stories were myths. But one discovery changed everything. A Valari historian uncovered a classified record from thousands of years ago. The document described the first time humanity had traveled beyond the galactic rim. The record ended with a warning. Human explorers encountered something in the void beyond the stars. The nature of the threat remains unknown. Humanity has agreed to guard the rim and prevent further expansion beyond the boundary. The council members stared at the ancient record in silence. One senator finally spoke. Guard the rim, from what? No one answered. But far beyond the galaxy, where human fleets had gathered in silence, enormous shadows were beginning to move in the darkness. And for the first time in centuries, the prison beyond the stars was starting to break. At first, the galaxy believed the missing stations were accidents. Small research outposts near the galactic rim often faced dangerous conditions. Solar storms, unstable stars, and navigation errors could destroy entire stations without warning. That was the official explanation. But the pattern continued. Another listening station vanished. Then another. Within 2 months, 23 stations near the outer rim had disappeared. The Galactic Council could no longer ignore the problem. A fleet was sent to investigate. The fleet belonged to the powerful Carthian Empire. Their warships were among the strongest in the galaxy. Massive black vessels armed with heavy weapons and advanced sensors. If something dangerous was hiding near the rim, the Carthian fleet would find it. Admiral Rethkor commanded the mission. His orders were simple. Find the cause of the disappearances. The fleet jumped across several star systems and finally reached the outer rim. At first, everything looked normal. Stars burned quietly in the distance. Asteroid belts drifted through empty space. Long-range sensors detected no hostile ships. But something felt wrong. The closer they moved toward the rim, the quieter space became. Navigation systems started behaving strangely. Energy readings fluctuated without reason. Then the fleet reached the system where the last monitoring station had disappeared. Admiral Reth expected to find wreckage. Instead, he found nothing. The entire station was gone. Not destroyed. Gone. Even the small pieces of debris that normally remained after accidents were missing. It was as if the station had been carefully erased from existence. One of the fleet engineers reported something strange. Admiral, we are detecting a small object drifting nearby. A drone was sent to retrieve it. Minutes later, the object appeared on the command screen. It was a simple metal beacon. When the crew activated the beacon, a short message appeared. Humanity tried to warn you. The bridge fell silent. Several officers looked at each other nervously. Admiral Reth frowned. Scan the system again, he ordered. Every direction. Long-range sensors expanded across the system. A few seconds passed. Then the sensor officer suddenly froze. Admiral. His voice sounded uncertain. What is it? Reth asked. The officer slowly turned toward him. One of the planets is missing. The entire bridge stared at the main display. The third planet of the system should have been directly ahead. But the scanners showed only empty space. Admiral Reth stood up. That is impossible. Planetary bodies could not simply disappear. Even if a world was destroyed, fragments of rock and gas would remain. But there was nothing. Not even dust. Then another officer shouted. Admiral. Another anomaly. A second planet had vanished from the system. This time the disappearance happened while the fleet sensors were watching. One moment the planet existed. The next moment it was gone. No explosion. No energy surge. Just empty space. Panic began spreading across the fleet. What kind of weapon does that? one officer whispered. No one knew. Then the sensors detected something else. A massive shadow moving near the edge of the system. At first the computers struggled to measure its size. Then the results appeared. The object was larger than the fleet. Much larger. It was the size of a small moon. Admiral Reth felt a chill run through his body. What is that thing? Before anyone could answer, the fleet sensors suddenly went dark. Navigation systems failed. Weapons lost power. Every screen on the bridge flickered at the same time. Then a signal appeared on the command display. It was not coming from the mysterious object. It was coming from a human frequency. A recorded message began playing. This is a warning from the Terran Outer Defense Fleet. The calm human voice filled the bridge. You have moved too close to the boundary. Admiral Reth stepped closer to the screen. What boundary? The message continued. The prison beyond the rim is weakening. If you value your civilization, turn back now. The message ended. For several seconds the bridge was completely silent. Then the massive shadow in space began moving toward the fleet. Admiral Reth suddenly understood something terrible. Humanity had not left the galaxy in fear. They had left to fight something much worse. And now, that something had finally arrived. Admiral Reth Kor stood frozen on the bridge of his flagship. The massive shadow outside the fleet continued moving slowly through the darkness. It did not fire weapons. It did not send signals. It simply moved closer, like a silent giant drifting through the stars. The Carthian fleet had fought many wars before. They had faced pirates, rival empires, and even ancient machines left behind by extinct civilizations. But nothing like this. The object was enormous. Larger than any warship ever built. And the sensors could barely understand its structure. It did not look like metal or stone. It looked alive in some strange way, like a massive creature drifting through space. Then suddenly, the object stopped. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then every screen on the flagship lit up again. The human signal returned. This is your final warning. The calm Terran voice echoed across the bridge. You have entered a restricted zone. Admiral Reth stepped forward. Identify yourself. A short pause followed. Then the voice answered. Outer Defense Fleet Command. Several officers looked at each other in confusion. The Carthian Empire had studied human fleets for decades. They knew the size of human ships, their weapons, and their strategy. But they had never heard of an outer defense fleet. Admiral Reth spoke again. Defense against what? The voice on the signal did not answer immediately. Instead, the main screen suddenly changed. A large image appeared. It showed a map of the galaxy. Then the view zoomed outward. Beyond the spiral arms of the galaxy was a wide empty space. The void between galaxies. Then strange red markers appeared in that darkness. Hundreds of them. Then thousands. Admiral Reth felt his throat go dry. What are those? The Terran voice finally answered. They are the reason humanity guards the rim. The screen changed again. Ancient footage began playing. Old Terran exploration ships moved through the empty darkness beyond the galaxy. The video looked thousands of years old. The first explorers had gone further than any species before them. At first they believed the void between galaxies was empty. They were wrong. The footage suddenly showed enormous shapes moving in the darkness. Creatures. Ships. No one could tell which. They were massive. Bigger than planets. And they moved in slow, silent groups like predators drifting through an endless ocean. The Terran voice spoke again. We call them the Devourers. The bridge of the flagship was completely silent. They do not build civilizations. They do not communicate. They only consume. The video showed one of the creatures approaching a distant star system. Within minutes, the entire system vanished. The star. The planets. Everything. Gone. Admiral Reth felt cold. And humanity fought these things? The Terran voice answered calmly. For centuries. The screen now showed enormous Terran fleets surrounding the edge of the galaxy. Thousands of human warships guarded the rim like a wall of steel. Long ago, humanity discovered a weakness in their movement patterns. We built a containment grid around the galaxy. Admiral Reth slowly understood. The monitoring stations near the rim. The human defenses. They were not protecting humanity. They were protecting everyone else. You created a prison, Reth whispered. Yes. And now the prison is failing. The Terran voice became quieter. When the Galactic Council expelled humanity, we withdrew our fleets from the containment line. The massive shadow outside the fleet suddenly moved again. Slowly. Hungrily. The Terran voice spoke one final time. The Devourers have noticed the opening. Admiral Reth felt panic rising in his chest. Then help us stop them. But the human voice sounded almost tired now. For thousands of years humanity protected the galaxy. We were mocked. We were called weak. The bridge remained silent. Then the Terran officer finished his message. So now the galaxy must decide. The giant creature outside the fleet opened a massive glowing structure across its surface. It looked like a mouth forming in the darkness. Will humanity save you again? Or will we finally walk away? And across the stars of the galaxy, the ancient Devourers were beginning to wake. Fear spread across the galaxy faster than any ship could travel. The report from Admiral Reth's fleet reached the Galactic Council within hours. At first, many leaders refused to believe it. The idea that something outside the galaxy could erase entire star systems sounded impossible. But the evidence was clear. Sensor recordings from the Carthian fleet showed planets vanishing. Entire systems disappearing without explosions or debris. And the image of the enormous creature drifting through space made even the most powerful empires fall silent. Emergency meetings were called across hundreds of worlds. The Galactic Council gathered again in the same chamber where they had once mocked humanity. But the atmosphere was very different now. No one laughed. No one argued. Every leader in the room knew one terrible truth. Humanity had not been weak. Humanity had been protecting them. The council leader spoke with a nervous voice. We must contact the Terrans immediately. Communication arrays across the galaxy attempted to reach human fleets. But no one answered. Human colonies had already disappeared beyond the galactic rim. Human diplomats had left every embassy. It was as if humanity had truly abandoned the galaxy. Meanwhile, the Carthian fleet near the rim faced a growing nightmare. The massive devourer creature had begun moving deeper into the star system. Its enormous body absorbed energy from the nearby star like a living engine. Sensors showed the creature growing stronger every minute. Admiral Reth knew his fleet could not stop it. But retreating meant allowing the creature to move deeper into the galaxy. He gave the only order he could. All ships prepare for attack. The fleet moved into battle formation. Dozens of heavy warships surrounded the giant creature. Weapons powered up. Energy cannons fired. Brilliant beams of light struck the creature's massive body. For a moment, the fleet officers felt hope. But the energy attack simply disappeared against its surface. The devourer did not even slow down. Then the creature moved. A wave of dark energy expanded from its body. 3 Carthian warships vanished instantly. Not destroyed. Erased. The fleet broke formation in panic. Admiral Reth watched in horror as another wave spread through space. 5 more warships disappeared. It was not a battle. It was a massacre. Then suddenly every sensor on the fleet detected something new. Hundreds of hyperspace signatures appeared near the edge of the system. Then thousands. Admiral Reth stared at the screen. An enormous fleet was arriving. Human ships. But these were not the small Terran vessels the galaxy had known. These ships were massive. Some were the size of cities. Others were larger than moons. The outer defense fleet had arrived. The largest Terran warship moved to the front of the formation. Its surface glowed with massive energy arrays. A transmission appeared across every channel in the system. "This is Admiral Naomi Carter of the Terran Outer Defense Fleet." Her voice was calm, but powerful. "All non-Terran ships retreat immediately." The Carthian fleet did not hesitate. Their ships quickly moved away from the battlefield. Now only the Devourer and the Terran fleet remained. Millions of human ships surrounded the creature like a wall of steel. Admiral Carter spoke again. "For 10,000 years humanity guarded the edge of the galaxy." Her voice spread through communication networks across hundreds of systems. "We stood between you and extinction." Images of the Terran fleet appeared across the galaxy as news networks broadcast the battle. Billions of citizens watched in silence. "You called us weak. You cast us out. But humanity does not abandon innocent lives." The massive Devourer turned toward the Terran fleet. The glowing structure on its body opened again. Admiral Carter gave the final order. "All fleets, fire." The darkness of space exploded with light. Thousands of Terran weapons fired at once. Stars seemed to tremble as the most powerful fleet in history attacked. And in that moment the galaxy finally understood the truth. Humanity had never been the weakest race among the stars. Humanity had always been the shield. And now, the shield had become the sword.